Hi, I'm Kristen.
Hi, I'm Michelle.
We're readers and writers.
We're sci-fi and fantasy fans, and this is the best of all worlds.
Hello, and welcome back to our podcast. Today, we've got an exciting episode here because we did a reading challenge.
Yes.
So, if you tuned into our world building episode, we both talked about some worlds that we love. Michelle brought up Cloud Atlas, and I brought up Wheel of Time. And in the process, we kind of convinced each other maybe we should check each other's favorite books out.
Yes.
So, that's what we challenged each other to do here. I picked up Cloud Atlas. Michelle picked up Eye of the World, first book of the Wheel of Time series, and we gave him a read, and now we're here to share our thoughts.
First of all, I just have to say it's a little rude that the book you picked is the first of like 18 or something.
Listen, you agreed to it.
I know, I made my bed and now I must lie in it. I accepted the challenge.
Yeah. Say it's only 14 books. 14 very chunky books, but you know,
yes.
it's less books than the Dresden Files.
Technically, but I think it's way more pages.
Oh, it's definitely more pages. I haven't counted, but I guarantee you it is.
Yeah.
I had a good experience with it, so I'd definitely be interested in doing more book swaps in the future.
Yes, me too.
And hopefully those of you listening who are either sci-fi or fantasy readers have some ideas to pick up for the other genre that you might not always go toward as much.
Yes, because as you guys know, I'm definitely more of a sci-fi person, which is why I gave her a sci-fi book. Arguably speculative fiction, which is up there as well. And you gave me just a straight epic fantasy.
Yep.
These are books we don't usually read, so I'm excited to dive in and talk about them, because I have a lot to say.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So we wanted to start out here first. Each of us are going to pitch each other's books to all of you, describing what it's about and why you might want to read it. That'll be no spoilers. And then after that, we'll dive into a spoiler section where we talk about what we liked, what we didn't like, and it could get interesting because these are both favorites, so we probably have some opinions.
Yes.
Michelle, you want to get us started off with your pitch for Eye of the World?
All right, so how to describe Eye of the World? Essentially, anyone who likes Lord of the Rings, I think, would enjoy Eye of the World because there's a lot of similarities. There is a more intense magic system, yes, but in this book it's not very broadly explored yet, so it's much more akin to like a generic they're going on an adventure, but there's a lot of danger and to fail is to die kind of direness to what they're doing. It gets quite dark, which Lord of the Rings also gets pretty dark, and I think the main differences are really just going to be the characterization, because something about Lord of the Rings is it's a lot more big picture, like it's a lot more zoomed out. The narrator, isn't it a third person omniscient narrator in Lord of the Rings?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't really get super deep into the characters' points of view.
Yeah, so this gets a lot deeper into character point of view. And so people who liked Game of Thrones but didn't like how dark that was might enjoy Eye of the World because it's less people are just straight evil everywhere and horrible to each other as Game of Thrones is. So it's like a little bit more optimistic than Game of Thrones, but that similar level of like in-depth character work is happening. So it's nowhere near as political, at least in this one, but I hear it does get more political, which is exciting to me.
Yes, that's definitely one of the reasons I love the series.
Yeah. But essentially this book is, there are three boys, one of their friends, who end up going on an adventure with a sorceress who's basically said that they need to go with her or die after their town is nearly killed by these creatures. And a lot of bad things happen along the way. all the way till the end.
It's like a really dramatic road trip. So
Yeah.
if you enjoy road trips like I do, you'll probably enjoy it.
Yes. That's my pitch. I feel like that's, if I say any more, there'll be spoilers.
Yeah. No, that's fair. I think that was a good description, and I totally agree on, like, it has a lot of the, like, theming and basic, like, tropes of Lord of the Rings, but with a lot more in-depth character work, which
Right.
I appreciate.
Exactly. So how would you pitch the literal complete other direction book that I gave you, Cloud Atlas?
So, Cloud Atlas is a very unique book. So, if you're looking for something that's got a totally different structure that also is almost like a historical epic in a way because it spans multiple time periods. And it goes all the way from, like the British naval ships in the 1800s to like the far post-apocalyptic future. So, it's got everything. So if you like a little bit of everything, you'll probably like Cloud Atlas. Basically, this is a story that follows 6 different perspectives of this person who may or may not be reincarnations of the same person because they all have the same birthmark. Not really a spoiler, it's not actually that relevant to the plot, but interpret it as you will. And basically, all these people have very terrible luck. They are all up against forces that are more powerful than them, and the story is us watching them struggle against those forces and how they respond. So it gets really interesting thematically, and what this story does that I found really fascinating is that it basically tells half of each story until you get to the middle story, the post-apocalyptic one, which is the whole thing, and then it goes back and finishes out the second half of all the stories that came before it, like going backward in time. So it really does an interesting way of playing with like the cyclical nature of time, kind of like Wheel of Time, honestly. Yeah. Weird connection, but it's very like thematically fascinating, and also weirdly enough, I would pitch this to people who like historical fiction because at least 3 of the perspectives take place in what would be considered a historical time period from today, and as someone who also enjoys some historical fiction, I kind of liked that. I thought that was cool. I'm weirdly into British naval ships right now, so I was really excited that there was a perspective that took place on a ship. I'm like, yes.
Yes. I'm not gonna lie, that's one of the main reasons I thought to recommend it to you, because it had the historical elements, but also the dystopian sci-fi and everything that I like, and the theme, so I'm glad that those all landed for you.
Yeah, no, it was really good, very interesting, and I think all of the perspectives, even though they were one by one, each one interrupting the next, they all were very interesting, which I think is hard to pull off. So I think it was very well done.
Well, I think now that we've read these books, we can understand a little bit more as to why they're so high up in our list of favorites.
Yes, for sure. Like, I think these are both really good books. In fact, I have them both rated at 4.5.
Yeah.
So
I also have Eye of the World rated at 4.5. I thought it was really good. I just had a couple things that I wasn't like super into, but that's just a personal preference thing.
I have other Wheel of Time books rated 5 stars, but Eye of the World is not one of them. It's more of a middling book for me in the series. There's a lot of other ones that I like better.
Yeah, ever since I told some of my friends that I've been reading it, they're like, when are you going to read book 2?
Listen, book 2 is actually one of my favorites.
Yeah. Well, look at this. I signed up for one reading swap, and now I'm already signing up for the second one in the series, and probably the rest of it. We'll see how this goes. I see why it's so many people's favorite after reading the first one. Like, if this is just a taste of how it goes, like, yeah, I can definitely see why people love this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it only gets more expansive and more intrigue and better character development as it goes on. So,
yeah.
If you're willing to stick it out, it's well worth it. Like, the ending books are some of my favorites in the entire series.
Ah, that's so many books away.
I know.
No, but I think, I mean, for the first in the series, I think Eye of the World is a really good book. Like, even if you don't ever get into the rest of the series, we'll talk about some of the things that didn't work quite so well. But, I mean, overall, I think it's a really good introduction to the world building and to the characters. And, yeah, I think it's a really solid opening book.
Yeah. And I think Cloud Atlas is a very solid standalone. It's pretty long, too. But it's definitely well worth it.
It is. It is long, but I feel like the fact that it is different perspectives makes it easier to feel not as long as it is, because each one almost feels like its own book in a way.
It's like a collection of creatively spliced novellas.
Yeah, that's exactly how I would describe it. It's like a Russian doll, you know, the ones that are smaller as you get inside. Yeah. It's like a Russian doll style story.
I think it's time to get into spoilers. So yes. We did set ourselves some ground rules because we know that when we get talking about books, we could ramble on forever and ever. So we are going to narrow this down to talking about our favorite things and our least favorite things. So, Michelle, you want to start out with the favorite things about Eye of the World?
Yeah, I think the part that surprised me the most, and I feel like it shouldn't have, but the show execution just wasn't that great. The way that it's portrayed in the book, the darkness, is really an interesting part of it, because you kind of go into it expecting it to be like just like a standard fantasy for the most part, but it really lets itself go quite dark. You have like the ways, which is just pitch black other than like what you can see directly in front of you with signs you can't read without this guy with you. You have what is that temple or city that they went to, the abandoned one?
Oh, Shadar Logoth.
Shadar Logoth, yeah, it really reminded me of this setting from the Abercrombie trilogy. It was very similar vibes, like in an abandoned city. It's really creepy. It's old. It's like more advanced than anything they have now, but like abandoned. It's like very eerie how that is. Yes. And yeah, that all was really cool. And he's not afraid of consequences as he's writing. So like bad things happen when they make bad decisions. So I like that there are consequences for actions as well. So just the overall darkness and willing to go into these and the blight. I didn't even mention the blight. That area freaked me out. I was uncomfortable the entire way. I feel like it's so much better in the book than in the show. I don't even know if I remember the blight in the show, but in the book it was definitely intense.
No, I think honestly that was one of my favorite things on my first read, was just the surprising amount of horror elements that are in the series, that it just definitely gives it like kind of a unique feel compared to other like epic fantasy books, which I quite enjoyed.
Exactly. I would say it's way darker than I feel like Lord of the Rings alludes to the darkness, whereas this just like kind of shows it to you.
Yeah, for sure. It's not like gory, like, you know, it's not like Game of Thrones darkness. It's more like creepy horror movie darkness. Yeah. Which I think is a little bit more up my alley when it comes to, like...
I agree.
I like the atmospheric darkness and not necessarily, like, the on-page, like, oh, that is... I don't want to see that.
Yeah, it's spooky. It's spooky, it's uncomfortable, a little bit, like, suspenseful.
Yeah, suspenseful, for sure. That's a good description.
Yeah. That's probably my favorite element. So the next thing that I really liked that I wasn't expecting, because I knew going in that it was a Chosen One story, so I was kind of like rolling my eyes before even going into it, I'm not gonna lie. Just knowing that it's a Chosen One story, I don't know, for me it's just like every fantasy just feels like it's a Chosen One. But what I really enjoyed is that it completely subverted the idea of that by making 3 characters the Chosen One. Of course, you know, let's all be honest with ourselves. The point of view character is the chosen, like the true Chosen One. Otherwise, why make him the main point of view character? But there is this level of doubt that hits you the whole time, especially if you don't know anything about the series. You really wonder, like, is this going to be something that's going to completely subvert the Chosen One and he's not actually the Chosen One, and maybe it's like Perrin? There's a moment where you question, oh, is Perrin actually the Chosen One? Because he has like a whole subplot, which is also one of my favorite things within the story. But I appreciate that there was doubt, that the whole time he wasn't necessarily rejecting it so much as he was fully avoiding it and not wanting to believe that it was possible, and just like thinking like, oh, this must be a huge misunderstanding. There's no way I'm the Chosen One. I can't even swing a sword. I can't even kill like those, what are those, Trollocs? Yeah, so I like that he's really weak. He can't really do anything for himself. Everyone needs to help him every step of the way. He can't do a single thing by himself. And when he does, he fails pretty miserably every single time. But yeah, I really liked that element. And then, of course, the Perrin subplot I could talk about a lot, because I wish that was the entire book. If that was the entire book, probably it'd be 5 stars, because that was such a good subplot. Like, Perrin goes and he meets this, like, recluse guy who can talk to wolves. He realizes he can talk to wolves. They run into these gypsies who are like completely non-violent, and they question like, is that the right path? But then they end up leaving. They get caught by the basically the paladins, the white cloaks, who are basically just a bunch of paladins, and they're like being tortured by them essentially. Like, that whole subplot is really, really interesting. I wish there was more.
There'll be more in future books, don't worry. That one definitely comes back.
Yeah, no, Perrin is by far up there as like top 3 favorite characters for sure. Rand is not in the top 3, so sorry, Rand. I know you're a point of view character, but you're not my favorite.
Listen, I feel like you're not alone in the opinion that Rand is not your favorite. I liked Rand a lot. Yeah. I don't know. I have a soft spot for just like the generically good-hearted hero who's trying their best but is completely out of their element. Like, I don't know. I can just relate to that kind of character, I guess, because I feel like I'm often trying my best and really out of my element. Yeah. So
he's a true hero. I mean, he's definitely like a good character. Even when he makes difficult decisions, he often makes the right choice, even if it has consequences. Like, he'll try to do the right thing pretty much consistently throughout, which is nice. I do enjoy that he's nice. It's just he's not the most interesting. And interest is usually what makes me pick a character that I like. The ones that I want the most from.
Well, I promise you, Rand gets a lot more interesting as the story goes on. By the end, I think he is easily the most interesting character. Okay, maybe not easily. There's a lot of competition. But he is the most interesting character to me by the end.
Sure. I mean, we have to find out who his parents are, so I'm sure that's going to be very interesting. Like, clearly there's something to do with his blood and how he's not like the people around him. So that's definitely something I'm invested in, and I want to know who his parents are and what that means.
Rand is not like other woolheads. Or at least that's what Nynaeve would say.
Right. Nynaeve. Oh, Nynaeve. Hands down my least favorite character. So far.
She gets, I'm not sure I want to say better, but more mature.
Yeah, I look forward to that.
She's still a strong personality, but she matures a lot, which is good.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of MBTI, she's like a pretty clear EJ. Like, I need to kind of control the group and make sure the group is all doing things exactly as they're supposed to. And like, yeah, a little controlling, but it's okay. I guess.
This is fine. She'll learn eventually.
Right. But without accidentally getting into my least favorite elements, what are your favorite elements about Cloud Atlas?
Yes. So I think right off I'm going to start out with just the overall, like, just thematic arc of the story. We're going big picture. I think it was really interesting what the story accomplished by setting this in like multiple time periods and like going forward and then going backward. So as it goes on, like once you get all the perspectives, you can see the clear pattern here is basically that when there is power, there are people who will take that power and they will abuse it. And all the main characters are basically suffering from being taken advantage of by people who have that power.
Yes.
But that's kind of like the arc of the first half, where it's like you just every time it cuts off, it like the character's just in a really bad position. It's like, oh no, like this guy's being poisoned, this guy's being blackmailed, this guy's, you know, it's just everyone, one of them literally gets driven off a bridge and crashes into the bay.
Yes.
So they're not in a great position when we leave them off, each of them, during the first half of the story. But then in the second half, what gets really interesting is we see it starting to come back around. Like, we see, like, each of them, like, in their own way, standing up against these systems of power that are trying to, you know, oppress them, that are just taking advantage of them. And, like, they accomplish it in different ways. Like, Sonmi accomplishes it, like, yeah, sure, she's captured and going to be executed, but she manages to turn that into propaganda for her side, which is pretty cool. You know, you've got Louisa Ray, the plucky detective who, you know, she keeps going even though people keep trying to kill her, and she eventually ends up exposing the big bad corporation that's gonna, like, create a really sketchy nuclear plant. Then you get all the way, you know, back to the original story with Ewing, who's the one who is on the sea voyage with the British naval ship. And in the original story, he had saved this Moriori guy, who's like a native from one of the islands. He had saved his life, and then that comes back around in the very end that the Moriori saves his life in return. And it's just this really nice, like, thematic arc of, like, yeah, power is going to be abused, but there are always going to be the people there who stand up against it.
Right.
And, you know, fight back, even if it's just, as, like, the final lines of the book go, like, just like a tiny, like, drop in the ocean. Right. But, like, what is an ocean if not for millions of drops?
Yes.
So it was like, that was such a good line. That was a great way to end the book. And I'm probably not quoting it right, but it's something along those lines.
Yeah, it's hands down one of the best quotes in any book. At least in my opinion, it's so, like, universally applicable.
Yeah, no, that was a really good line. Like, that's definitely something you could slap on a poster for sure.
Yes.
But yeah, no, that was definitely, I think, just being someone who loves good themes in a story, that was the thing I appreciated the most about the story. And it's one of those things that, like, the more I go back and think about the story, like, the better those themes become, which is cool. I like a story that I can just dwell on afterwards, so.
Yes, and reread multiple times and still catch new things.
Yes. Like, the one thing I picked up, like, after the fact, just, like, the fact that Frobisher, like, in the first half, he's, like, reading Ewing's journal, and he's like, oh, like, this guy is such an idiot, he can't tell that this doctor's poisoning him. It's like, dude, you are currently being blackmailed, and you don't even realize it.
Exactly. Yes.
Like, oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yep, this egotistical guy who's, like, really proud of his compositions. They're just getting stolen from him, getting put under a different name, and meanwhile he's like, oh, ha, 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 you're so dumb.
It's like, sure. But yeah, I bet it would be really good on a reread second time around.
It is.
And then I guess the other favorite I want to point out is, I'm just going to call out my favorite perspective of the book,
Yes.
which was the far future post-apocalyptic section.
Yes.
So I listened to the audiobook, which I think really helped because it is that section is written in like a basically made up dialect. It's still definitely understandable. I think you could understand it while reading, but the audiobook narrator did just such a good job of bringing it to life that literally I like found myself like as I was listening to this section, like I'd go off and do something else and like I'd be thinking thoughts in my head in this dialect. It was like, wow, like, you know, it's well written when it's like so immersive that all of a sudden I'm thinking in these weird phrasings. I'm like, huh, fascinating. But other than the fact that it's written in a weird dialect, it's a really interesting story. So it follows this kid named Zachary. For his time, he's pretty old, but by our standards, he's just a teenager, and it really shows. Like, this lady shows up who's from the ship of people who are basically, like, the last, like, technological remnant of the previous civilization. They still have some elements of learning and technology left, and she comes to this island to study this people group that Zachary is part of, and he like mistrusts her so much. He's like, I'm gonna prove she's up to no good, and just being this like moody teenager who's like, no, I'm not gonna trust this lady. Like, in the process, of course, he ends up like actually forming like a friendship and a bond with her, which is that's a cool story, just the relationship between the two of them. But
Yeah.
then it gets so dark because this like tribe of like horsemen who are just murder, pillage, super savage, no like respect for humanity whatsoever, come in and murder everyone, and they have to escape and run away, and pretty much everything that Zachary knew just gets destroyed. And it's really sad, but it's also like this really beautiful parallel to the story from Ewing's section, which is the first and last sections of the book, with the tribe of Moriori who lived on this island, and then the Maori come in and like wipe them out. It's like the parallels between that historical tale and then this post-apocalyptic future tale. It's the balance between those two is like so interesting, as well as just it's a really compelling story. Like I really enjoyed that point of view. I really enjoyed like seeing what this society was like in like the future. Like, how do you recover from such a like a massive apocalypse, and
Right.
how do like the remnants of technology linger as like mythology. Actually, one of the interesting elements is that Sonmi from the previous time period is actually seen as a god in this post-apocalyptic time period, which is like, huh, interesting, and like you wonder how that all came about. So it's definitely the most unique section of the book, and I think it did a really good job, and it was just super compelling just as a standalone story, even without the way it thematically ties the whole arc together.
Yeah, that is honestly in my top 2 favorite perspectives. I really like Zachary and that whole arc that he goes through, and I mean, kind of calling back to what saved Ewing as well. He has to rely on other people and help them, and so that mutual support is what allows them to even get to the temple where they see Somni's image and get that like kind of closure at the end.
Yeah, so it was very well done. Favorite section, but I also really liked the Louisa Ray section was really good. I liked the Ewing section because ships. I just like ships, I guess. I don't know when this happened recently.
Meanwhile, that's like my least favorite perspective.
It's fine.
Hey, I mean, it just goes to show we all have preferences, so yeah, I mean, also those 2 perspectives are probably arguably the most, well, Zachary's not the most directly good. Ewing is the most directly good of the characters, I think, like the most obviously good, with very little negative traits.
Listen, I like seeing the good characters go up against terrible, horrible things.
Yes.
This is fine.
Meanwhile, like your least favorite character, I actually really like his perspective.
Yeah.
But it's because he's so unlikable that I like it.
Well, this might be a good time to dive into the least favorites.
Yeah. I think we should do it like a Cloud Atlas style. You should go
Oh, yes,
next.
do a Cloud Atlas. All right, well, I'll dive straight into my least favorite character then.
Yes.
So, my least favorite was Timothy Cavendish. Now, his story is interesting and kind of like a fun, just misadventure, prison break at a nursing home, wacky stuff going on there. But my gosh, this man was so insufferable, I couldn't get past it. Like, I'm the kind of reader where I'm like, I want to be able to empathize with the characters, even if they're terrible people. I want to like find that one like redeemable thing about them and be like, well, but I can empathize with them. This man I could not empathize with for the life of me because he was just the worst. He was rude to everyone. He was manipulative. He was scamming people out of money. He was super sexist, which is a big no for me.
Yeah.
It was just I could not feel sorry for him when he got trapped in this nursing home. I'm like, I want to feel sorry for you, but I can't. The best I can feel is just indifference. And
Right.
I don't like stories that make me feel indifferent. Like, I want to feel something. And in order to really feel something, I either have to, like, just completely, like, despise and root against the character. Or I have to, like, be at least somewhat rooting for them. But this man managed to hit right in the middle of the spectrum where I'm like, what's happening to him is objectively unfair and not good, but I don't like him, so I just can't care. So, sorry to Timothy Cavendish, but it just... I couldn't get invested because I got the most invested when we got to, like, the other couple who were trapped in the nursing home and them getting out. I'm like, okay, I want them to get out.
Yeah.
Timothy I could care less about. But these guys deserve better.
I will not be subjected to this criminal abuse.
Yeah. So it's like, it is absolutely like an entertaining section. Like, I understand why you like it, and I understand why other people might like it. But it was just, this man pushed too many buttons that are like big no's for me, that I'm just like, this is someone that I just cannot, if this person was around me, I would walk away.
Yeah, no, he's very deplorable. In my belief, this was his karma.
Yeah.
Everything that happened to him was his karma. He did some messed up things, or was complicit in some messed up things happening pretty early on.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's bigoted, but he's kind of an example of someone with power who's been abusing that power, and then it gets turned on him, so.
Yeah, that is true. That is true.
Yeah. And then the biggest slap in the face is that Somni uses him for inspiration.
A good case for, like, a death of the author. It's like, yeah, a really crappy person wrote this, but, you know, you turned it into something good, so you know what? We're not discounting that.
Yeah. So is there anything else besides your least favorite character that you wanted to touch on?
Honestly, I don't really have a lot of complaints about the story. Like, it's generally very good. The other thing that I have to bring up really is just, as much as I love the section with Ewing, the Henry, the doctor, his plan made no sense. I'm like, you're poisoning this guy so you could steal his money, but you spend how many months poisoning him slowly when you could have just killed him and taken his money and no one would have questioned you. It's like, this is really inefficient, and you're just leaving so many gaps for something to go terribly wrong or him to figure out what you're doing. It's like, this is just, maybe he's just in it just for the fun of
Right.
torturing someone, but I'm like, this may be fun, but it is very inefficient, and that's kind of dumb.
Yeah. Maybe it's like sadism. I mean, that could be like
Yeah.
part of it. Or like even like a weird what is it, Munchausen's by proxy or something? Like it's like he's getting both. He's getting a little bit of that out of it. Like he's pretending to be a caregiver, and that makes him feel good about himself, even though he's also poisoned. Because, mothers who have Munchausen's by proxy, like they make their own kids sick to take care of them. And like that's how they, I don't know, it's like a weird thing that they do. It's messed up, but
Yeah. So, I mean, there could definitely be explanations for why he had a really stupid plan, but the fact is, he had a really stupid plan, and it's like,
yeah.
man, I don't know how you've been getting away with this for so long, because it's like, it's sure evil, but it's not smart.
Yeah. Yeah. But not all the evil people were all that smart throughout the series. They were just, a lot of them just really normal people with malicious intent.
It's true. And oftentimes it's not really smart to be evil, so, maybe that's a good point as well.
Yeah. Take notes, people who are trying to be evil. Maybe it's not.
Maybe think twice before you be evil.
Maybe consider it a little bit first. Oh gosh. It's too funny.
Well, that's pretty much all I had for negatives to share, so I want to hop on over to negatives for Wheel of Time.
I will take it. Those are pretty mild negatives, I would say, compared to like what it could be. So that makes me feel very positive that you felt this good about the book. I'm not gonna lie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it was really good.
Yeah, I mean, my negatives are pretty minimal as well. Number one is just pacing. It had the same issues that 12 Months had, where I just felt like the plot stopped and started a lot, so it was like, not very consistent, and I don't know, it's probably because it is a road trip, and that's not necessarily something I'm super into. It just felt like not a lot was happening. I mean, events were happening, things were happening, but yeah, it was slow paced and it took a while for everything to happen. So that wasn't that made it slower to read for me, I would say. Which is a pretty minor note. I mean, that's what kept it from being like a 5-star, as well as the quote unquote romantic relationships.
Yeah, I think any Wheel of Time fan will agree with you that the romantic relationships are not the strength of the series.
Yeah, it's like they're there because the author's like, oh yeah, people like other people of the opposite gender. Therefore, I should add... well, isn't there a lesbian couple too? Maybe it's not like just gendered, but he definitely just has relationships that feel like they just exist because they are supposed to have relationships, not because it has any build-up or reasoning for existing.
Yeah, no, definitely. I feel like the relationships were like super built up in the author's head, and then when it came to putting them on the page, it was like,
yeah.
There was stuff happening here in the background, I promise.
Yeah, like Nynaeve just randomly all of a sudden is in love with Lan, and he's in love with her, maybe, ? It's all very strange, and it doesn't have any build-up, just all of a sudden she's like, oh, Lan is so handsome. Okay.
Yeah. It is very sudden. So yeah, I can't disagree with that. I fully agree that Wheel of Time romances are some of the less good ones that I've read.
Yeah. But I mean,
luckily I do not read for romance. So
same. Yeah.
We're good.
I could take it or leave it, though. I mean, some romance is not necessarily bad, but it is only really appreciated if it makes sense. I look forward to hopefully there being some improvement as the series continues in that regard.
There is some improvement. There's also some unimprovement.
Oh no.
Don't read it for the romances. Do not
Yeah.
read Wheel of Time for the romances.
If you're an author, just know you don't have to add romances. It's okay. Like, characters can just exist without romantic relationships. It
Yeah.
is okay. It is okay. No one's gonna be mad. If they're mad, they can write a fan fiction. That's what fan fiction is for.
That is what fan fiction is for. You can write any relationship you want.
Exactly.
Even if it's probably a bad idea. You can do it anyway.
Yeah. Oh, and kind of just touching on the pacing thing, I did want to call out the ending because the ending just feels like it slaps you in the face and it's over. And it's a little confusing and hard to follow those last couple of scenes.
Yeah, and honestly, for me, that's what brings Eye of the World down to a 4.5 for me instead of being a 5-star Wheel of Time book, is because the ending confused the heck out of me the first time I read it. And on the second time I read it, I'm like, I understand it a little better, but I still don't like it. It could have been more clear.
Yeah. Other people that have talked to me have said that they also were confused by the ending. So apparently this is like a fairly well-known thing. Just, just get through it.
Yeah.
Things resolve, technically.
Yeah. And I think the ending was intentionally confusing. I just don't like things to be intentionally confusing. That is not a personal preference. So, yeah.
Because it's kind of like a dream-like thing, right? So.
Yeah, it was like, it's unclear what's actually happening, how it's happening, if it's real, if it's not real. Nothing is clear. It's like a trippy dream sequence, and I am not a fan of trippy dream sequences, so yeah, I wasn't a fan of that ending. But it only brought the book down 0.5 star for me, so it's really not that consequential. In the long term, I think it's a really good book, and I guess to counteract the pacing statement, I personally think the pacing's great, but I am a reader of epic fantasy. So if you're a reader of epic fantasy, you'll probably have no issue with the pacing. If you're not, then yeah, maybe it might be a little slow.
Yeah, and I like standalone books and typically thrillers, so they are quite fast-paced on average. That is my typical go-to style. So it's a step outside of my comfort zone, but I also read Joe Abercrombie, and it's also very slow in its pacing. So, sometimes you sacrifice some pacing for some character work, and that's okay. It just makes it a little slower to read, that's all. That's all. A little slower. And then a slap in the face at the end.
Yep. A little bit of whiplash.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm definitely going to have to think about what book to recommend to you next. I kind of have an idea of a dystopian one that's also really high up on my list of favorites. That's a little bit of a romance dystopian. I think that's what I'm leaning towards, but I'm going to consider it a little bit longer. But it's a lot shorter than Cloud Atlas.
Okay. Yeah, I might have to just say pick up book 2 because I love book 2. Book 2 is so good. But if you're like, no more Wheel of Time, I'll find a different recommendation.
3 months later.
Fair. Or we could let our listeners give us ideas in the comments. What books do you want us to challenge each other to read?
Yeah, what are some of your favorite sci-fi fantasy books that we need to pick up and explore? I'm always down for new stories.
Yes, absolutely. And did we convince you to pick either of these books up? Let us know.
Yes, hopefully you do, and then we can talk about it because there are not enough people out there that I can talk about Cloud Atlas with. I want more people who've read this.
Yeah, there is a lot to unpack, let me tell you. We only touched the surface.
Yes, we have had private conversations where we have gone much further in depth on. There's just so much.
Yeah.
But we appreciate you guys listening, and we appreciate your recommendations. We definitely look forward to them. Have you read these books? If so, put all your thoughts. And if you've read Cloud Atlas, please tell me so I can have another soul to speak to about this.
Yes. And tell me if you've read Wheel of Time, because also there's not that many people who have read the entirety of Wheel of Time.
That's a good point. That's a good point. It's a commitment, so I understand you guys. I really do.
Yes.
Oh, well, thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you guys next time.